In this video, we're going to be talking about making API calls in React. Originally, we learned how to make API calls using AJAX, which is part of jQuery. Since jQuery is usually used for DOM manipulation and React uses a virtual DOM, we generally shouldn't be using these together. So how do we make an API call without AJAX? Lucky for us, developers have created a very simple way to work around this. Axios is an NPM package that works very similarly to AJAX without jQuery. This is the application we're going to be creating. As you can see, it's very quick and works similarly to our OMDB app that we created using AJAX. Now for the fun part. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to be doing is setting up the application. I'm going to be using Yarn instead of NPM because Yarn is a much faster and more consistent tool. When installing a new package with Yarn, the package is stored locally, so the next time you install that package in another application, you don't have to download it online again. By doing so, Yarn is able to take advantage of offline cache. This is one of the biggest advantages to Yarn because it puts less strain on the network and allows you to install packages in a faster and more efficient manner. If you would like to learn more about the advantages of Yarn over NPM, you can do a Google search for Yarn versus NPM, and the SitePoint link has a list of reasons to choose Yarn over NPM. If you Google Yarn versus NPM Facebook, the code.facebook link has a much more in-depth description. Okay, let's get back on track here. I'm going to use Yarn to install Axios, which is the NPM package that we will be utilizing. We will use the command yarn add Axios to do this. We also need to remember to add the bootstrap link to the index.html file in the public folder. Now that we've got everything set up, let's start coding. Open up the OMDB container component and add 3 methods: component did mount, handle input change, and handle form submit. Component did mount is one of React's lifecycle methods. This is a method that is triggered right after this component has loaded. If we were to query a search before this component mounts, the application will be slowed down because it will be waiting for a response before it finishes loading. For more information on React lifecycles, you can Google React lifecycle, and the first link for me with the React.js URL does a good job of going through all of the different lifecycles and gives you a brief explanation of what they all do. In this method, we're going to be utilizing the search movies method, which is already here but commented out. What the search movies method is doing is using a separate method within the API.js file called search with the query parameter. Let's take a look at the API.js file. This looks very similar to the AJAX method. Axios is making a GET request to the OMDB API URL with the query as a parameter along with the API key and then returning the response. We then go to the promise where the response is used to update the state. Res.data will be the new value of the result property of state. And if there's an error, we console log it. Alright, so this part is working properly. Now let's add the input change and search function. The handle input change method is the same as we've done before. We're going to be updating the search property of state with whatever is the current value of the search bar. Handle form submit will then trigger the search movies function with whatever is the current value of search in state. Alright, we've successfully completed this activity.